out to November. It's in a way hard to believe, and in a way it's not, that it's already November. Before you know it, the end of the year celebrations will be on top of us. Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, and so on and so forth. Today we have a new writer. His name is Reverend Dr. Jim Lockard, and this is a little bit about him, and then I'll tell you what he says. He's a minister emeritus and a practitioner of religious science. That's practitioner with a small p. He served on the Religious Science International Board of Directors for 9 years, and he was instrumental in the integration of RSI, which is Religious Science International, and United Church of Religious Science, when they merged to become Centers for Spiritual Living, which they are right now. He says, since retiring from active ministry in 2015, after 20 years, he traveled extensively, and he currently lives in Lyon, in France, that's in the middle of France, with his wife, Doriane Cotter-Lockard, who is a PhD, and his current ministry involves writing his blog, which is called New Thought Evolutionary. And the blog is New Thought Evolutionary WordPress.com. New Thought Evolutionary WordPress.com. And he also writes books on spiritual leadership, and he conducts personal coaching for spiritual leaders. And he chose as his photograph, which is by Petra Victor. It's kind of a scene. It's got forests in the background. It looks like, I'm not sure if there's fires or just dawn, mist, grass, lots of different stuff. There's also here a quote by Rumi, and the whole thing is entitled, "Why are you so enchanted by this world when a mine of gold lies within you?" Why are you so enchanted by this world when a mine of gold lies within you? And as I said, that's Reverend Dr. Jim Lockard, and my mouse is still doing its wacky thing. Probably need to go to the Apple Store and ask them for some help here. Anyway, here we go. He has entitled the first reading, Abundance 101. Abundance 101. I gotta tell you though, I've always said that if I disagree with someone or my views are different than someone's when they're doing the writings for this month, and I'll say so. And I have some bones to pick with Reverend Jim Lockard. Why? Because he is writing to a different audience than the one to whom I'm speaking. He didn't know that. He assumes that everybody who reads the Science of Mind magazine is involved in either Science of Mind or New Thought. That is not necessarily true. People are interested in it, curious about it also, but people just come across it. And I want to have this message go out to anybody who watches it, irrespective of their religion, spirituality, no religion, no spirituality. I want it to go out to everybody so everybody can make use of it, because I believe that's what Ernest Holmes did. Anyway, he calls it Abundance 101. The first quote is from someone I'm sure most of you have heard of. It's Eckhart Tolle, and he says, "You're not separate from the whole. You are one with the sun, the earth, and the air. You don't have a life, you are life. So you're part of the whole expression of life." And this quote from Holmes, it's called The Philosophy of Ernest Holmes. It's on page 85, that publication. He says, "We say we are one with God and one in God. This is a mistake. We are one of whatever the nature of God is. Whatever it is one." I think for most people, You don't need to make that distinction. There is one life, and that life is all the life there is, and we are expressing that life through us, as us. Anyway, this is Reverend Dr. Jim Lockard. The creation of the universe contained within it everything necessary at that instant, and also the potential for everything that would be necessary for its continued existence and evolution. Nothing was missing. In other words, all the ingredients were there in the first place because they had to be, because since the Big Bang, or however it was started, nothing has been added from outside. So everything was within, and some things changed into other things. They morphed into other things. So nothing was missing. True. Everything at the beginning of the universe that was there is there, or it's changed into something else, but all the same ingredients are still there. And then he says, as expressions of that universe, you and I are made of the same stuff by definition, right? If that's all there was, we're part of it. That which was present at the instant of creation, Big Bang, that which has come from potential into form during the life of the universe thus far, so the things that morph from other things. We also have access to the unlimited potential that has not yet been actualized. Our future is bound in the future of the universe. Yeah, Holmes would agree with that, because he would say that the universe is evolving as a whole. We individually are evolving. We as a human race are evolving. And that whole thing, evolution, continues. And he believed it continues on. When you move into a spiritual form, it still continues. He goes on to say, this rich birthright is available to everyone and is part of everyone. And then this is also important. I totally agree with him, but we must discover it for ourselves. In other words, it's no good having fish in a pond, wondering how to get the fish out if you don't actually make the effort to figure out some way to get them out, like a fishing rod. He says, but we must find our way, discovering ourselves and our divine natures as we go. Yes, I agree with that. Some, it seems, are born into situations where this discovery is highly unlikely, while others, such as, he says, while others such as you, dear reader, have come in possession of the great truth of self-discovery. I disagree with him here. He says, our teaching, Science of Mind, is one source of this truth. Agree. Built from the wisdom of the ages and expanded through a modern understanding of psychology and physics and everything else. I'm going to finish before I go back to my disagreement. Our great gift is that we have this teaching available. Okay. To bring these principles to life, we must keep studying the teaching and practicing its principles in our own life. Okay. This is where I would have worded it differently. Because, as I said, my audience is bigger than people who are already involved in Science of Mind or New Thought, Unity, whatever branch, or the Japanese one whose name I always forget, but it's the biggest expression of New Thoughts on the planet. See, I would have said it this way. It seems, some, it seems, are born into situations where the discovery of our divine nature is unlikely, while other people have already discovered this, and some people are still in the process of discovering it, and others are simply curious to find out what the truth of this is. So in other words, if you're watching this or reading this stuff, there's a really good chance that you are open to finding out more about yourself and about the universe and about nature, and if you like, divine nature. So I would say it's to people who are open to actually discovering more about themselves and the universe in which they live. And I would say there is one great gift that I believe in, and that's this teaching, because I believe it brings these principles to life. And for that reason, I recommend to everyone who's already discovered it that you continue studying the teachings. And I would recommend that if you don't know anything about it, that you begin to study these teachings, or at least be curious about them. So that's my piece. His affirmation: I know I'm one with the richness of spirit at all times. Take your pick. I accept this as the essential relationship of my life and receive its blessings. If that applies to you, use it. You could even change it and say, I am in the process of discovering more about myself and the universe, and more is revealed on an ongoing basis, something like that. So that was my beef. That's where I ended up. And I don't apologize for my views. If you don't agree with my views, that's also okay, because I'm not here to persuade you to accept my views. I'm here to persuade you to be open to my views, just as I'm open to other things, just as Einstein was open to lots of things. And Einstein is the one who said, what was it? Imagination is more important than knowledge. Hey, if somebody like Einstein can say that, so can I. And I'm not kidding you. This mouse is just wild and wonderful, but I kind of accept it, and I know it does wacky things. Tomorrow, I will read about Murphy, the Human Whisperer, from the September edition, because I'm ready yet. It's actually pretty cool. Well, you know what? I think I'm going to read it now. Do you have another 5 minutes? Hopefully you do. This is from the September issue. Murphy's Dogma. For the ones of you who don't know, Murphy's called the Human Whisperer, and he watches over his human Reverend Bob Luckin, who actually writes the article, obviously. When he isn't working on his column, send your questions to murphy@csl.org. He can't reply to all the mail. murphy@csl.org. It's kind of cute. You know, Bob Luckin writes as if Murphy is giving his advice a lot of the time. It's called Murphy's Dogma, Pause with Perspective. Here it is. He says, I had a dream last night that an extraordinary event turned people of all races and religions into dogs. Suddenly, all war stopped. Hate ended, and there was no more talk of one person's God being bigger or better than another person's dog. This is really cute. In fact, everyone seemed to accept and understand that God never had been a person, but was, in fact, an elegant intellect woven into the very fabric of the universe. He says, at first, some of the small dogs were afraid of the big ones, but the big dogs could find no advantage in being large and had no desire to control those smaller than themselves. This is really cool at this time, this election time. Black, white, yellow, and red dogs enjoyed chasing each other, playing tug of rope and rolling in the dirt. They spent a fair amount of time sniffing everything, including each other. Hunting dogs loved to hunt, but never showed disrespect for dogs who didn't. Dogs of the far north were dressed for the weather, as were dogs of the deep south. There were no arguments about which dogs were the smartest. Every dog understood and appreciated their value and the beauty of diversity. Police dogs had nothing to police, and guard dogs stopped guarding. Both loved to run and play far more than anything else. I knew I was only dreaming, but I wish people could be a little more like dogs. When you think about that, I think that is really cute. Every being is valuable and lovable. Let's pause and appreciate our diversity. And that, my friends, as far as I'm concerned, is how we should be looking at this current election season. So that's it for me for today. Until tomorrow, 5 o'clock-ish. Have a great rest of the day. Whatever that day turns out to be, and have a great rest of the week, whenever that turns out to be. And if, like me, this is coming out to your weekend, have a wonderful weekend. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and until next time. And Reverend Lisa will be back at 9:30 tomorrow. Namaste.